For privacy reasons, names and places have been changed. This story is inspired by true events.
On June 21, 1992, 22-year-old Amanda Peterson vanished without a trace during a cross-country road trip from Seattle to her hometown of Minneapolis. The recent college graduate had been driving her red 1988 Toyota Camry when she disappeared somewhere along Interstate 90 in Montana, leaving behind only her abandoned car and a mystery that would baffle investigators for years. Despite an extensive investigation involving multiple state police agencies and the FBI, no trace of Amanda was ever found. Her car was discovered 3 days after her disappearance at a rest stop near Billings, Montana, but provided no clues about what had happened to the young woman who had been so excited about starting her new job. For 5 years, Amanda's disappearance remained one of the most perplexing missing person cases in the Pacific Northwest. Her family never stopped searching, never stopped hoping, and never stopped believing that someday they would find answers about what had happened to their daughter. Then, in August 1997, automotive mechanic Tony Martinez was performing routine maintenance on a used Toyota Camry at his shop in Denver, Colorado, when he made a discovery that would finally solve Amanda Peterson's disappearance. Hidden behind a removable panel in the car's interior, Martinez found evidence that had been waiting 5 years to tell its story. This is the complete investigation into Amanda Peterson's disappearance, from the lonely highway where she vanished to the shocking revelation that would emerge from inside the very car she had been driving when she disappeared. Chapter 1. The Journey Home. June 21, 1992 was the beginning of what should have been an exciting cross-country adventure for 22-year-old Amanda Peterson. The recent University of Washington graduate had just completed her degree in journalism and was driving home to Minneapolis to start a new job at the Star-Tribune newspaper. Amanda had spent 4 years in Seattle, falling in love with the Pacific Northwest while earning her degree. However, the opportunity to work for a major metropolitan newspaper in her hometown was too good to pass up, and she was excited about beginning her career in journalism. The cross-country drive was something Amanda had been planning for months. She saw it as a final adventure before settling into adult responsibilities, a chance to see parts of the country she had never visited while making the transition from student to professional. Amanda's parents, David and Carol Peterson, had some reservations about their daughter making the 1,200-mile drive alone, but they knew she was responsible and capable. Amanda had been an independent, adventurous person throughout college and had traveled extensively both domestically and internationally. Amanda's red 1988 Toyota Camry was reliable and well-maintained, having served her faithfully throughout her college years. She had the car thoroughly serviced before beginning the trip and had stocked it with emergency supplies, maps, and everything she might need for the journey. The planned route would take Amanda east on Interstate 90 through Washington, Idaho, Montana, and into Minnesota. She intended to take 3 days for the trip, stopping overnight in Spokane, Washington on the first night and Billings, Montana on the second night. Amanda left Seattle on the morning of June 21 at approximately 8 a.m., after calling her parents to confirm her departure and expected arrival times. She was in excellent spirits and told her mother that she was looking forward to the drive and to starting her new career. The first day of Amanda's journey proceeded without incident. She called her parents from Spokane that evening to report that she had arrived safely and would continue on to Montana the following morning. She seemed happy and excited about the scenery she had seen during her drive through eastern Washington. On June 22, Amanda left Spokane around 9 a.m. and headed east into Montana. She called her parents again around 2 p.m. to report that she had stopped for lunch in Missoula and was making good time toward Billings, where she planned to spend the night. This 2 p.m. phone call would be the last time anyone spoke with Amanda Peterson. She had sounded completely normal during the call, mentioning that the weather was beautiful and that she was enjoying the drive through Montana's scenic landscapes. Amanda was expected to call her parents again when she reached Billings that evening, but the call never came. When David and Carol Peterson hadn't heard from their daughter by 10 p.m., they began to worry but assumed that Amanda might have decided to stop for the night at an earlier location. By noon on June 23, when Amanda still hadn't called, her parents became seriously concerned. They contacted the Montana State Patrol to report their daughter as potentially missing and to request that someone check for any accidents or incidents along Interstate 90. The Montana State Patrol began checking with law enforcement agencies along Amanda's route, looking for any reports of accidents, breakdowns, or other incidents involving a red Toyota Camry. Initially, no such reports were found, increasing the mystery of Amanda's disappearance. However, on the afternoon of June 24th, Amanda's Toyota Camry was discovered abandoned at a rest stop approximately 50 miles west of Billings. The car was parked legally in the rest area, appeared to be undamaged, and showed no signs of struggle or foul play. Amanda's personal belongings were still in the car, including her suitcases, purse, and wallet containing cash and credit cards. The only items missing were Amanda's car keys and the small travel bag she had been keeping in the front seat with snacks and personal items for the road. The discovery of Amanda's abandoned car launched an immediate and intensive search of the surrounding area. Montana State Patrol officers, local sheriff's departments, and volunteer search teams combed through the rugged terrain around the rest stop looking for any sign of the missing young woman. The rest stop where Amanda's car was found was located in a remote area of Montana, surrounded by rolling hills and sparse vegetation. The facility consisted of basic restroom facilities and picnic tables, with limited visibility to and from the interstate highway. Despite extensive searching over the following days, no trace of Amanda was found in the area around the rest stop. There were no footprints, no pieces of clothing, no signs of struggle, and no indication of which direction she might have gone or what had happened to her. The investigation revealed that Amanda's car had been at the rest stop for at least 12 hours before being discovered, based on the recollections of maintenance workers and other travelers. However, no one remembered seeing Amanda herself or witnessing anything unusual at the location. The mystery of Amanda Peterson's disappearance was particularly baffling because her car had been found in good condition with all her valuables intact. If she had been the victim of robbery or random crime, her belongings would likely have been taken. If she had left voluntarily, she would have taken her purse and other personal items. Chapter 2: The Investigation. The investigation into Amanda Peterson's disappearance began in earnest on June 24, 1992, when her abandoned Toyota Camry was discovered at the remote rest stop west of Billings, Montana. The Montana State Patrol took the lead in the investigation, working closely with the FBI and law enforcement agencies in surrounding states. Detective Sarah Mitchell of the Montana State Patrol was assigned as the lead investigator. With 15 years of experience in missing person cases, Mitchell immediately recognized the unusual aspects of Amanda's disappearance that suggested neither random crime nor voluntary departure. The first priority was to process Amanda's vehicle for any evidence that might explain her disappearance. The car was towed to the Montana State Patrol Crime Laboratory in Helena, where forensic technicians conducted a thorough examination of both the interior and exterior. The forensic examination revealed no signs of struggle inside the vehicle. Amanda's belongings were neatly arranged, and there was no evidence of blood, torn clothing, or other indicators of violence. The car appeared to have been parked normally and legally in the rest area. However, investigators did find one potentially significant clue: Amanda's car keys were missing, even though all her other valuable items remained in the vehicle. The missing keys suggested that whoever had left the car at the rest stop had wanted to ensure it couldn't be easily moved. Detective Mitchell interviewed the maintenance workers and frequent travelers who used the rest stop regularly, hoping to find someone who had seen Amanda or noticed anything unusual. However, the remote location meant that there were few potential witnesses to interview. One potentially important witness was a long-haul truck driver named Robert Chen, who reported seeing a red Toyota Camry at the rest stop during the early morning hours of June 23. Chen couldn't provide a detailed description of the car's occupants but remembered the vehicle because it was one of the few cars at the facility. The investigation expanded to include a comprehensive search of the area surrounding the rest stop. Search and rescue teams with tracking dogs covered thousands of acres of rugged Montana terrain, looking for any sign of Amanda or evidence of what had happened to her. The search efforts were complicated by the challenging terrain and harsh weather conditions. The area around the rest stop consisted of rolling hills, deep ravines, and dense vegetation that could easily conceal evidence or make it difficult for someone to be found even if they were nearby. After a week of intensive searching, investigators had found no physical evidence related to Amanda's disappearance. The case was expanded to include the possibility that Amanda had been abducted and transported to another location, potentially in another state. The FBI joined the investigation on June 30th, bringing federal resources and expertise in interstate crime cases. Special Agent Michael Rodriguez was assigned to work with Detective Mitchell and coordinate with law enforcement agencies throughout the region. Agent Rodriguez's first priority was to investigate Amanda's background and recent activities to determine if she might have been targeted by someone who knew her travel plans. The investigation revealed that Amanda had led a normal college life with no apparent enemies or concerning relationships. The FBI also analyzed Amanda's phone records and credit card usage to determine if there had been any unusual activity before her disappearance. However, all of Amanda's financial and communication activities appeared normal up until her final phone call to her parents. One line of investigation focused on the possibility that Amanda had been the victim of a serial predator who targeted lone female travelers. The FBI was tracking several cases of women who had disappeared along interstate highways throughout the region during the early 1990s. However, analysis of these cases revealed no clear pattern that would connect Amanda's disappearance to other crimes. Each case had unique circumstances, and there was no evidence linking them to a single perpetrator or criminal organization. The investigation also considered the possibility that Amanda had staged her own disappearance, though this theory seemed unlikely given her excitement about her new job and close relationship with her family. Investigators found no evidence of financial problems or personal issues that might have motivated her to disappear voluntarily. As summer 1992 turned into fall, the active investigation into Amanda's disappearance was gradually scaled back, though the case remained open. Detective Mitchell continued to follow up on tips and leads, but the initial intensive effort had produced no concrete evidence about Amanda's fate. The case received significant media attention throughout the Pacific Northwest and Mountain West regions, with Amanda's photograph appearing on television news programs and in newspapers. The story of a young woman disappearing during a cross-country road trip captured public attention and generated numerous tips. Most of the tips involved reported sightings of women who resembled Amanda in various locations throughout the western United States. However, investigation of these sightings revealed that none involved Amanda herself, and most were cases of mistaken identity. One potentially significant tip came from a gas station attendant in Wyoming who reported seeing a woman matching Amanda's description with a man who seemed to be controlling her movements. However, further investigation revealed that the incident had occurred several days before Amanda's disappearance and involved different people entirely. As 1992 came to an end, Amanda Peterson had been missing for 6 months without any confirmed sightings or physical evidence. The investigation had involved hundreds of law enforcement officers and volunteers but had produced no answers about what had happened to the young journalist. The transition from active investigation to cold case status was devastating for Amanda's family, who had maintained hope that their daughter would be found alive. David and Carol Peterson refused to give up and continued their own search efforts while working with missing person organizations. The mystery of Amanda's disappearance seemed destined to remain unsolved, joining the ranks of countless missing person cases that fade into obscurity over time. However, the answers to Amanda's fate were actually much closer than anyone realized, hidden inside the very car she had been driving when she vanished. Chapter 3: Years of Searching. The years following Amanda Peterson's disappearance were marked by relentless efforts from her family to keep the case alive and find answers about their daughter's fate. David and Carol Peterson refused to accept that Amanda had simply vanished without a trace, dedicating their lives to searching for her. The Peterson family hired private investigator James Walsh in 1993 to continue the search when it became clear that the official investigation had exhausted its immediate leads. Walsh brought fresh perspective to the case and had extensive contacts throughout the law enforcement community. Walsh's investigation focused on the theory that Amanda had been abducted by someone who was familiar with the remote rest stop where her car was found. The location was not a random choice. It was isolated enough to avoid witnesses but accessible enough for someone to remove Amanda without attracting attention. Throughout 1993 and 1994, the Peterson family organized search expeditions to Montana and surrounding states, bringing volunteers to areas that might not have been thoroughly searched during the original investigation. They distributed thousands of flyers and maintained a reward fund for information about Amanda. The case was featured on several television programs, including Unsolved Mysteries and America's Most Wanted, generating hundreds of tips from viewers across the country. However, most of these leads proved to be false sightings or cases of mistaken identity when investigated by law enforcement. One tip that seemed particularly credible came from a woman in Colorado who reported seeing someone matching Amanda's description at a truck stop in 1993. The witness provided specific details about the woman's appearance and behavior that seemed consistent with Amanda's characteristics. Investigators traveled to Colorado to follow up on this lead, interviewing the witness and reviewing security footage from the truck stop. However, the footage was too unclear to make a positive identification, and the lead ultimately proved to be another dead end. Detective Mitchell continued to review Amanda's case file regularly, looking for connections to other missing person cases or new forensic techniques that might be applicable. She maintained contact with the FBI and participated in task forces focused on missing women throughout the western United States. In 1995, the case received renewed attention when it was connected to a task force investigating a potential serial killer who might have been active along Interstate 90 during the early 1990s. However, this investigation eventually determined that the suspected individual had been in prison during the time of Amanda's disappearance. Meanwhile, Amanda's red Toyota Camry had been released from evidence storage and sold at auction in 1994, 2 years after her disappearance. The car had been thoroughly examined by forensic technicians but had revealed no useful evidence about Amanda's fate. The Toyota was purchased by a used car dealer in Billings, Montana, who performed basic maintenance and cleaning before putting it up for sale. The car's history as evidence in a missing person case was not widely known, and it was sold as a normal used vehicle. In late 1995, the Toyota was sold to a college student in Denver, Colorado, who needed reliable transportation for school and work. The student, Jennifer Martinez, was unaware of the car's connection to Amanda Peterson's disappearance and simply saw it as an affordable, well-maintained vehicle. Jennifer drove the Toyota for nearly 2 years without any problems, using it for daily commuting and occasional longer trips. The car ran well and required only routine maintenance, showing no signs of the traumatic history associated with its previous owner. In early 1997, Jennifer began experiencing some mechanical problems with the Toyota, occasional stalling and difficulty starting that suggested issues with the fuel system or electrical components. She took the car to Martinez Auto Repair, a small shop in Denver owned by mechanic Tony Martinez, no relation to Jennifer. Tony Martinez was an experienced mechanic who had been working on automobiles for over 20 years. He took pride in his thorough approach to diagnosis and repair, often discovering problems that other shops had missed through his careful attention to detail. When Jennifer brought the Toyota to his shop in July 1997, Tony immediately recognized that the car's problems were likely related to corroded electrical connections or fuel system issues common in older vehicles. He quoted a reasonable price for diagnosis and repair, and Jennifer agreed to leave the car for a few days. Tony's initial examination revealed several minor issues that needed attention, but he also noticed that some of the car's interior panels didn't fit quite properly. As an experienced mechanic, he could tell that certain trim pieces had been removed and reinstalled, possibly during previous repair work. Curious about the previous repairs and wanting to ensure that his work would be thorough and lasting, Tony decided to remove some of the interior panels to check for hidden damage or improper previous repairs. This decision would lead to a discovery that would finally solve Amanda Peterson's disappearance. On August 15, 1997, while removing the panel behind the passenger seat to access electrical connections, Tony Martinez found something that would shock him and finally provide answers to a 5-year-old mystery. Hidden behind the panel was evidence that had been waiting since 1992 to tell its story. The discovery in Amanda's Toyota would not only solve her disappearance but would also reveal how evidence of a crime had been successfully hidden for 5 years, traveling thousands of miles while containing secrets that would finally expose the truth about what had happened to the young journalist. Chapter 4: The Hidden Evidence. August 15, 1997 was a humid summer day in Denver when mechanic Tony Martinez made the discovery that would finally solve Amanda Peterson's 5-year-old disappearance. Martinez was working on electrical problems in the red Toyota Camry when he decided to remove the interior panel behind the passenger seat to access wiring connections. Martinez had been working on automobiles for over 20 years and had developed an eye for detecting previous repairs or modifications. He had noticed that several interior panels in the Toyota didn't fit quite properly, suggesting that someone had removed and reinstalled them at some point. As Martinez carefully removed the panel behind the passenger seat, he immediately noticed that the space behind it had been modified. Someone had created a small hidden compartment by removing some of the car's insulation and framework, creating a space that would be invisible during normal use of the vehicle. Inside this hidden compartment, Martinez found a collection of items that would immediately solve one of the most perplexing missing person cases in recent memory. The items included Amanda Peterson's missing car keys, her small travel bag, and most significantly, a detailed handwritten journal. The journal was written in Amanda's handwriting and documented her final days in terrifying detail. The entries revealed that Amanda had not disappeared at the Montana rest stop, but had actually been abducted from a gas station in Missoula and held captive for several days before being murdered. According to the journal entries, Amanda had stopped for gas in Missoula on June 22 when she was approached by a man who claimed to be having car trouble. The man, who appeared friendly and harmless, had asked Amanda for help with his vehicle while she was filling her tank. When Amanda had agreed to look at the man's car, he had forced her into her own Toyota at gunpoint and had driven away with her as a captive. The journal entries described how the man had threatened to kill Amanda's family if she tried to escape or attract attention. The abductor had modified Amanda's car by creating the hidden compartment behind the passenger seat, where he stored supplies and kept Amanda's personal items. He had also forced Amanda to write in the journal as a way of documenting his control over her. The journal entries revealed that Amanda's captor was someone with mechanical knowledge who had been planning abductions for some time. He had chosen Amanda because she was traveling alone and appeared vulnerable, and he had prepared her car in advance for transporting a captive. The most disturbing entries described how Amanda had been held for 3 days while her captor drove through several states, keeping her hidden in the modified Toyota while appearing to be a normal traveler. Amanda had been forced to remain in the hidden compartment for hours at a time. The final journal entry, dated June 25, 1992, described Amanda's growing fear that her captor was planning to kill her. She had written desperately about her love for her family and her hope that someone would eventually find her journal and understand what had happened to her. Martinez immediately recognized the significance of what he had found and contacted the Denver Police Department. Within hours, FBI agents and investigators from multiple agencies had arrived at the auto repair shop to examine the evidence and begin a new investigation. The discovery of Amanda's journal provided investigators with detailed information about her abductor, including physical descriptions, behavioral patterns, and clues about his identity. Amanda had been observant and had documented everything she could about the man who had kidnapped her. The journal revealed that Amanda's abductor called himself Ray and claimed to be a long-haul truck driver who traveled regularly throughout the western United States. Amanda had described him as approximately 40 years old, average height, with graying hair and distinctive tattoos on his forearms. Most importantly, Amanda had managed to document the license plate number of Ray's truck, which she had seen when he had forced her to help him load supplies. The license plate information provided investigators with their first concrete lead in the case since Amanda's car had been found 5 years earlier. The FBI immediately began searching databases for truck registrations matching the license plate number Amanda had recorded. The search revealed that the plate belonged to Raymond Ray Thompson, a 42-year-old truck driver from Utah with a history of minor traffic violations but no serious criminal record. However, further investigation revealed that Thompson had been questioned in connection with several other missing person cases involving young women who had disappeared along interstate highways throughout the western United States. Thompson had never been charged due to lack of evidence, but he had been a person of interest in multiple investigations. The discovery of Amanda's journal provided the evidence needed to finally link Thompson to her disappearance and potentially to other unsolved cases. The detailed documentation that Amanda had been forced to write had preserved crucial information that would have been impossible to obtain any other way. Thompson was located and arrested in Salt Lake City on August 18, 1997, 3 days after the discovery of Amanda's journal. When confronted with the evidence from the journal, Thompson initially denied involvement but eventually confessed to abducting and murdering Amanda Peterson. Thompson's confession revealed that after holding Amanda captive for 3 days, he had killed her in a remote area of Wyoming and disposed of her body in a location he claimed he could no longer remember. He had then driven Amanda's car to the Montana rest stop and abandoned it, hoping to misdirect the investigation. The confession confirmed that Thompson had been responsible for at least 3 other similar abductions and murders along Interstate 90 during the early 1990s. Amanda's journal had provided the key evidence needed to solve not only her case but potentially several other cold cases. The discovery of the hidden compartment in Amanda's car revealed how Thompson had been able to transport victims while avoiding detection. The modification was sophisticated enough to fool casual inspection, but could be detected by someone with mechanical knowledge who was looking carefully. Chapter 5. Justice at Last. The arrest of Raymond Thompson on August 18, 1997, marked the beginning of the end of one of the most complex and disturbing serial murder cases in recent U.S. history. Thompson's confession, prompted by the discovery of Amanda Peterson's journal, opened investigations into multiple unsolved disappearances across the western United States. FBI Special Agent Rodriguez coordinated a multi-state task force to investigate Thompson's criminal activities and determine the full scope of his crimes. The task force included investigators from Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Idaho, and Washington, all states where Thompson had been identified as a person of interest in missing person cases. Thompson's confession revealed that he had been operating as a serial killer for over 5 years, using his job as a long-haul truck driver to identify and abduct victims along interstate highways. He had specifically targeted young women traveling alone, viewing them as easy prey who were unlikely to be missed immediately. The investigation revealed that Thompson had developed a sophisticated method for abducting and transporting victims. He would approach women at gas stations or rest stops, claiming to need help with his vehicle, then force them into their own cars at gunpoint while appearing to be a helpful stranger. Thompson had modified multiple vehicles over the years, creating hidden compartments where he could keep victims while traveling. The compartments were designed to be undetectable during normal use of the vehicles, allowing Thompson to transport captives for hundreds of miles without being discovered. Amanda Peterson's journal provided crucial evidence not only about her own case but also about Thompson's methods and psychology. Her detailed observations helped investigators understand how Thompson selected victims and carried out his crimes over such an extended period. The journal entries revealed that Thompson had forced his victims to document their captivity as part of his psychological control over them. He had kept journals from other victims as trophies, providing investigators with evidence about additional murders that might never have been solved otherwise. Thompson's confession led investigators to remote locations in Wyoming, Utah, and Idaho where he had disposed of victims' bodies. Over the following months, the remains of 4 additional women were recovered, providing closure to families who had been searching for missing daughters for years. One of the recovered victims was identified as Lisa Chen, a 19-year-old college student who had disappeared from a gas station in Utah in 1991. Lisa's family had never stopped searching for her, and the discovery of her remains finally provided answers about her fate. Another victim was identified as Sarah Williams, a 24-year-old nurse who had vanished while driving home from a conference in Colorado in 1993. Sarah's case had been featured on several television programs, and her family had maintained hope that she might someday be found alive. The discovery of multiple victims confirmed that Thompson had been one of the most prolific serial killers operating in the western United States during the early 1990s. His use of interstate highways and multiple states had made it difficult for law enforcement agencies to recognize the pattern of his crimes. Thompson's trial began in early 1998, with prosecutors seeking the death penalty for his crimes. The evidence against him was overwhelming, including his own confessions, the victims' journals, and forensic evidence linking him to multiple crime scenes. The trial revealed the full extent of Thompson's psychological manipulation of his victims. He had forced them to write detailed accounts of their captivity, apparently deriving satisfaction from their fear and desperation while documenting his control over them. Amanda Peterson's journal was presented as key evidence during the trial, with prosecutors reading excerpts that demonstrated Thompson's cruelty and Amanda's courage in documenting her ordeal. The journal provided insight into the final days of a young woman who had refused to give up hope even in the most desperate circumstances. Thompson was convicted on multiple counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. The conviction brought some measure of justice for Amanda and the other victims, though it could never fully heal the pain experienced by their families. For the Peterson family, Thompson's conviction provided the closure they had desperately sought for 5 years. David and Carol Peterson were finally able to lay their daughter to rest and begin the healing process that had been impossible while her fate remained unknown. The case had a profound impact on law enforcement procedures for investigating missing persons cases involving interstate travel. The FBI developed new protocols for sharing information between states and identifying patterns that might indicate serial predators. Mechanic Tony Martinez was praised for his careful attention to detail and his decision to report the discovery of Amanda's journal immediately. His thoroughness in examining the Toyota had led to the breakthrough that solved multiple murders and brought a dangerous killer to justice. The case also led to increased awareness about the vulnerabilities faced by solo travelers, particularly young women. Amanda's story became part of safety education programs designed to help people recognize and avoid potentially dangerous situations while traveling. The hidden compartment in Amanda's Toyota had preserved crucial evidence for 5 years, traveling thousands of miles while containing the secrets that would ultimately bring justice for multiple victims. Amanda's courage in documenting her ordeal had provided the key to solving not only her own case but also the murders of several other young women. Thompson was executed in 2003, bringing a final end to a case that had terrorized families and communities throughout the western United States. His death provided closure for the victims' families while ensuring that he could never harm anyone else. Final words. The resolution of Amanda Peterson's case in 1997 marked the end of one of the most complex serial murder investigations in U.S. history. The discovery of her journal behind a car panel had not only solved her disappearance but had also brought justice for multiple victims of a predator who had operated undetected for years. Amanda's story led to significant improvements in how law enforcement agencies share information about missing persons cases across state lines. The FBI developed new databases and communication protocols specifically designed to identify patterns in interstate crimes. The Peterson family established the Amanda Peterson Foundation, which provides safety education for travelers and supports families of missing persons. They worked tirelessly to ensure that Amanda's death would help protect other young people from similar fates. Mechanic Tony Martinez's careful work became a case study in how civilian observations can contribute to solving criminal cases. His decision to thoroughly examine the Toyota rather than simply fixing its immediate problems had been crucial to the breakthrough. The case demonstrated how evidence could be preserved in unexpected ways and locations, waiting years to be discovered by someone with the right combination of curiosity and expertise. Amanda's journal had survived because of Thompson's desire to keep trophies, ultimately becoming the evidence that convicted him. Today, Amanda Peterson's legacy lives on through the safety programs and investigative improvements that resulted from her case. Her courage in documenting her ordeal under the most terrifying circumstances had provided the key to bringing justice not only for herself but for multiple other victims. The hidden compartment in a car panel had preserved the truth for 5 years, demonstrating that sometimes the answers we seek are closer than we imagine, waiting patiently for the right person to look in the right place at exactly the right time.